3 days. That's what most companies call compassionate leave. 3 days. 3 days to bury your mother, to bury your loved one, process your world ending, and then show up on Monday morning ready to discuss quarterly projections. Meanwhile, your coworkers have moved on. Your desk is buried under workday saved for you. And everyone's talking about their weekend plans while you're still trying to remember how to breathe. Today, we're talking about the unspoken reality of grief at work and the script you need when your workplace expects you to be over it already. Welcome to Haven Hub, the space for women who are tired of feeling stuck between what feels like a rock and a hard place. I'm Lolly, a life coach and your guide and fellow traveler for strong, high-functioning women who are navigating life's hardest chapters with dignity and honesty. And each week, we name the quiet struggles, we unpack the emotional weight, and explore the shifts that move you towards clarity and what you actually want. You don't need to fix yourself. You just need a way through. So, what's today's way through? We're talking about that brutal transition back to work after a loss. I remember walking back into the office after my mom died, and it felt like stepping into an alternate universe. Everyone had moved on. They were talking about their family dramas, their deadlines, and for you, it might look a little like them chatting about Netflix shows, complaining about traffic, basically living their normal lives. Meanwhile, I, on the other hand, was drowning in grief that still feels really fresh. So fresh that it physically hurts. And staring at a mountain of work that had waited for me. On top of that, new assignments already piling up. My employer has been known to be sensitive to emotional situations in the past, thankfully. However, grief heightens the feelings of being overlooked. The message really felt clear. Your grief is an inconvenience. Wrap it up. Don't make others uncomfortable. It's like being on your period. You're expected to function normally while bleeding. Never mentioning the pain. Never asking for what you actually need. Now let's look at some of the myths of moving on at work. Let's name what nobody says out loud. Workplaces treat grief like a stomach bug. Take a few days, get it out of your system, and come back when you feel better. But grief doesn't work on corporate timelines. When I returned from my compassionate leave, I realized that 3 days was supposed to be enough to arrange a funeral, to manage family dynamics, to process the shock, cry it out, and somehow emerge ready to care about spreadsheets again. Thankfully, I was able to take 2 weeks. The work that accumulated while I was gone, though, felt like punishment, if I have to say. It's like, oh, here's everything we saved just for you, as if I should be grateful they didn't give it to someone else. But here's what really killed me the most in the situation. It's the speed at which everyone else has moved on. My coworkers were deep in their own dramas. Someone's home renovation, another person's ex-husband's custody drama. And you know what? These are all legitimate concerns for them, to be quite fair. But for me, I felt invisible. I was carrying this massive weight while pretending to care about work deadlines. The truth is that grief brain is real. I repeat, grief brain is real. You can't focus, you forget basic things, you might even find yourself crying in the bathroom between calls or between different deadlines, and some days you're staring at your screen for an hour, accomplishing absolutely nothing because your brain is replaying, for me, in my case, my mother's last words instead of processing any data that was coming through. I want to remind you that grief brain isn't weakness. It's just you being human. Your brain is literally rewiring itself around a massive loss while you're expected to maintain peak performance. No wonder it feels impossible. There's just too much going on. Now let's look at some of the things workplaces get wrong and what we can actually do to fix the situation. So one of the things that workplaces misunderstand about grief fundamentally is that it's not a problem that needs solving. It's actually a permanent reshaping of somebody's in a world that requires long-term accommodation and not a quick fix. What they give us is 3 days off, maybe flowers, an awkward "how are you?" questions that don't want real answers, and then the aggressive normalcy. What we actually need is flexible re-entry. Things like half days, remote options, or modified duties for the first month back at least. Grief brain accommodation. So understanding that our cognitive load is absolutely maxed out. Permission to not be okay, without it obviously affecting our performance reviews or being seen as not resilient. Practical support. Someone to help prioritize the backlog and not just dump it on our desk and expect it done within a certain time frame when we don't have the capacity. Long-term recognition. So for those who have grieved or are grieving, you know that grief waves hit randomly. It could be 6 months later, a year later, and it washes over you again like it's brand new. And we need that grace for the bad days that will come. I'll be honest, I had a lot of these benefits, like flexible re-entry, permission to not be okay. And I'll be honest with you, it really still doesn't feel like enough. And this is why I'm naming the extra things that could have helped. I think the most important thing that's not being said is that we need to stop being treated like our grief is somehow contagious or uncomfortable to the workplace. So when leadership and colleagues rush past the grief, they're essentially saying, your full humanity isn't welcome here. So bring only the convenient parts, please. I personally wanted to cocoon myself for a month minimum. I wanted to wrap up in a blanket and just cry if I wanted to, and just exist with the loss that I've just experienced. But the honest truth is that bills don't pay for themselves. Bills don't pause for grief. The rent or the mortgage, it doesn't care that your world just ended. So we show up, bleeding internally, performing functionality we don't feel, all because, unfortunately, capitalism doesn't make space for the human heart. I want you to pause. We have a workshop coming up in a few weeks, and it's called Grief Growth, where we go into more understanding of how to navigate grief moving forward. And it includes a free return to work survival kit with actual scripts for talking to your boss about what you need, email templates for setting boundaries with colleagues, and a guide for managing grief brain at work. Because you shouldn't have to figure this out alone while you're barely holding on. So join us at the workshop, and you can sign up at havenhub.live/workshop. And the link will be in the show notes. So let's talk about becoming your own advocate when it comes to grief. The shift that will help you change everything is when you stop shrinking to fit into other people's comfort zones. You need to start advocating for what you actually need. Yes, I'll admit it's very scary. Yes, you might worry about being seen as a difficult person, but helping yourself live with the grief after losing someone begins when you stop pretending you're fine. I'll give you an example. You can have a script for your boss and say something along the lines of, I'm back and committed to my work, but I need to be transparent. Grief is affecting my capacity in waves. For the next month, I'd like to propose insert thing. So, for example, I would like to propose flexible hours or work from home on Fridays or, modify the project load that you have, something along those lines, right? And you'll say, this will help me deliver quality work while I navigate this transition. Now, another script that you can use, for example, for when you're having a really bad day with grief, because they will come frequently and often. You can say something like, I'm having a grief wave today and I really need to take a step back. I'll be working from home, I'll be taking a half day, or I'll be focusing on, tasks that I can do by myself, something like that. And then you say, I'll reassess how I feel tomorrow and see where I'm at. These scripts are factual. They are not apologetic. They name your reality without oversharing. They ask for specific support. They are not vague. These vague, let me know if you need anything offers that never materialize. Nope. You've said exactly what you need and you keep it moving. And the most radical thing is that when someone says, but everyone goes through loss, you can respond with, well, yes, and everyone deserves better support than what we currently offer. And I'm advocating for what I need, and I hope when it's your turn, you'll feel empowered to do the same, because you never let anyone minimize your feelings, your grief, your loss. So if you're drowning at work, while grieving. I want you to know that you are not weak. You are human in an inhuman system. And this is exactly why Haven Hub exists. Every week we tackle these invisible struggles and give you real tools for navigating life when it feels impossible. If you need more than scripts, if you need a community that gets it, or coaching that will help you rebuild and strategize for long-term dealing with grief, I want you to check out our Grief Growth Intensive Workshop. It's specifically designed for high-functioning women trying to maintain their career while their hearts are breaking. And you don't have to be performed to be okay for anyone. Your grief matters. Your needs matter. And you deserve support that actually supports. The link will be in the show notes. Thank you for listening today. If this stirred something in you, I want you to send it to someone who'd get it too. You never know who's holding the same thing quietly. I'm Lolly, and I'll see you next time. Until then, keep choosing yourself. Bye.